Today we are going to begin volume versus last week when we talked about surface area. So the volume is kind of thinking of how much liquid you could pour into a solid, how much it could hold, versus last week talking about the surface around it if we were going to paint it with a paintbrush. So let's actually start with the rectangular solid because this is something you guys have been working with for years, even back in middle school or junior high. You guys learned that the volume of a prism was length times width times height, and that obviously still works for any rectangular prism. However, as you saw last week, we saw many different types of prisms, triangular, hexagonal, etc. So the volume of any prism is going to be the area of the base times the height of the solid. So we usually write that as capital B H, where capital B, again, is area of the base, just like last week. And then H is the solid's height. So just be careful. It's not the height of like the base. Now a cube, because all the sides are the same, if you were to do length times width times height and they're all the same, you could actually think of it as side cubed. So let's look at the first few examples here. When it says that this first rectangular prism has dimensions 6 by 8 by 12, it actually doesn't matter which one you do. I usually think length times width times height. So 6, 8, and 12. You can certainly put the 12 on the front. It doesn't actually matter. So volume is 6 times 8 times 12. When I type that in my calculator, I get a volume of 576 meters cubed. Remember, volume is cubic. Now, just in case you're one of those people who says, you know, I really don't want to have to worry about different formulas, I just do want to show you that capital BH would have worked as well, because in this case, the base would have been 6 times 8, which is 48. The height of the solid would have been 12. So if you take 48 times 12, you still get back to our volume of 576. So either formula will work for the rectangular prism. Now for number 2 though, this is a triangular prism. So in this problem, we have no choice. We have to use capital BH, area of the base times the height. So all I have to do is figure out the base and the height, and I will be good to go. So this says find the total area of the equilateral triangular prism with sides of the base are 6. So guys, that means all of these are 6 because it is equilateral. And then the height of the prism is 16. So even though this is lying down and this doesn't seem like a height, it's because that triangular prism fell over. The height is always the distance between the bases. So how do we find the base? Well, this is an equilateral triangle, so we're going to do 1/4 side squared root 3. So 1/4 of 6 squared root 3. 1/4 of 36 is 9. So our base is 9. So since our base is 9 root 3, and we know the height already to be 16, we can simply take and plug that in. 9 root 3 times 16. We're just going to multiply 9 times 16, which is 144, and we tack the root on afterwards, and this would be inches cubed. So our total volume is 144 root 3 inches cubed. Okay? Now for the cylinder. The cylinder's volume is actually, guys, the same thing because, once again, a cylinder is a prism with circular bases. So technically, it is the same formula, but we know that the base of a cylinder is pi r squared. So for that reason, we can simply just call it pi r squared h. Okay, so just remember that the radius is half the diameter, and that the height, even when it's lying down, is still the distance between the two circles. So we have an example here, and then you guys will get to start on the practice. So right away, when it says find the volume of the cylinder, I just write down the formula. Pi r squared h, so I know I need h and I need the radius. So the height is nice and easy, that's 8, but the radius we don't know yet. Well, rather than just drawing in the radius, I can tell right away that I see a triangle here. So if I'm going to use the full triangle, I have to draw in the diameter. So in order to find this, I'm going to do the Pythagorean theorem. 10 squared equals 8 squared plus x squared, or if you know your triples, this is a 3, 4, 5 that got doubled. So 100 equals 64 plus x squared. Subtract 64. 36 equals x squared. I square root both sides, giving me plus or minus 6 equals x, but we know we just want the positive version because you can't have negative length. So just be careful. Number one mistake that gets made here is people find the 6 and they just run with it and use it. But you got to remember, you just found the diameter, which means the radius is actually only 3. So our volume is pi times 3 squared times 8. So 3 squared is 9, 9 times 8 is 72. So our volume is 72 pi cubic feet. So that is it for the video. You're going to go ahead and try the ones on the back, and then we'll go over them in class on Monday.